Hi everyone, Yaku from tutortouch here. I am extremely excited for today's video as we are finally launching our brand new XTR series, which is an upgraded version of the EK panels that we had last year. Upgrades in terms of hardware, we've updated the OS, we've updated some of the software, as well as embedded our own AI directly onto the panel. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump straight into it and then just talk you all over the slight differences. So the first one would be we've changed the OS or the operating system from Android 13 to Android 15. This means faster performances and better compatibility with other OS or operating systems. Then we've also upgraded our internal storage from 64 gig to 128 gig. So with our single sign-on cloud save system, this shouldn't be too much of an issue or make too much of a difference. However, if you then decide to natively save on the panel, you are able to do that. Other than that, I just want to move on to another page quickly to touch on to the more features over here. So under the more features, you'll see the tools that we've all come to know and love. So our mathematical tools, our rulers, our protractors, our 3D and 2D shapes. Would it be any of these options that you're looking for? It's a bad color to demonstrate. Let me just do that again. So all of these tools are still here. However, we've added onto this to enrich the teaching content that you can give to your students. So number one would be the periodic table. So we've integrated the periodic table, and from here you can now insert elements directly into the panel to be showcased while using or teaching the classroom. When you're expanding, you will be able to see the atomic structure of everything. I just want to point out that you're not limited to just one of these elements. Let's say you are talking about a whole bunch of them. You can insert them all in conjunction with each other and then use them all independently of one another. So to enrich that teaching content accordingly. Other than that, we've also added our planets in 3D. This is a full solar system. As you can see, I can move it around, I can zoom in and out, and I can see the entire solar system. And you are also able to, when you're double clicking, to zoom into certain things. So let's say you want to look at the Earth, I can blow it up, I can make it smaller, or I can go to a different panel like planet by simply double clicking on that. So we have a whole bunch of extra tools. Then we also have ranking and grouping, which are just tools to use in the classroom if you want extra engagement with your students. Other than that, we've added some resource materials at the bottom. So mainly we've integrated with PhET online. It's a Colorado University simulation program, as well as then we've added Wikipedia and most of GeoGebra's calculators and resources. So to quickly start, I just want to show the molecular structure builder. So you can now build molecular structures in front of your students in real time. You do have the ability to activate the GeoGebra's geomic calculator to use in real time on the panels. We also have GeoGebra's 3D calculator that you can use directly on the panel now within the Node program, as well as their full-fledged scientific calculator. So these resources were all readily available for you. And the one I skipped was PhET or simulations. This is called PhET. It is from the Colorado University, and this is essentially one of those additions to enrich the teaching content. So if I had to, let's look at the options here. Let's go to color vision quickly. So if this is something that you were teaching, maybe in science or biology, you can then choose the correct option. So let's just go with a single bulb for now. If I turn on the bulb, you'll see that it shows me the color that the light is portraying. So let's say we move it to red or to blue, you'll be able to see that the colors do change. However, I can add a filter, and if I then change that filter, this will change the color accordingly and as what would be allowed through essentially at the end of the day. All right, so that was just fed quickly. These are reusable simulations. You can click on your subject matter. If it's something you want to do, you can sort them via grade via all of the different criteria that you might need to find these. And they are all integrated within the panel. Next, I want to move on to our tutortouch AI. As I've mentioned, we have implemented it onto the panels, and it's a full AI suite to enhance your teaching content. So if I had to put tutortouch AI on the panel, you'll see that it now turns into block letters for me. Now, this is not a new feature, however, we've made it more simple and it has a lot more language pattern recognition. So I know my handwriting is extremely bad, and I have tried it in cursive and it still pops up with all of these little automatic handwriting features. So just to go on from there and to touch onto the AI, we do have a built-in AI in the Note program, and then one that sits encompassing the entire OS. So within the Note program, let's quickly say we are going to work on Einstein's equation of E equals mc squared. This will be turned into block letters for me. The square doesn't necessarily work or put it where it's supposed to be, but according to the context, I can now go and do a whole bunch of things from here. So if, number one, I would like to translate this to another language, I can do that. However, the quotation or the formulation isn't something that you really need to translate. However, from here, I can click on AI, and this generates a subset of topic buttons for me. So the idea behind our AI was to improve the content that you can teach, not to take over. So you'll see with everything I showcased today, the AI needs to have an input before there's an output. So we've given it E equals mc squared, and now I want to have some conversational pieces or some topics I can discuss with my students just as an opening to the lesson. So if I click on topics, you'll see that they pop up at the top there. And now from my example, E equals mc squared, I have different topics that we can discuss. So let's say Einstein's formula, basics of E equals mc squared, explained. Now what I can do from there is I can activate one of our other AIs or other AI features. So if I press on the side menu bar, you'll see that there's a circle and go option. Now this allows you to basically use the AI anywhere on the panel. So if I click on circle and go, you'll see that it becomes another slight-ish color, and I can circle exactly what I want to search. The bottom right-hand corner, you'll see it does search the internet for me, and it has come up with the Einstein's formula, with explanations of what all of these elements stand for, the background behind this, and then from there I can insert these directly within the Note program. So if I want to insert this, I can enrich my content right on the panel by simply pressing insert, or I can go to the bottom and find an image which I can click and hold on, and then once it's available to drag and drop, you can simply put that into the Note program, once again enriching that teaching content. For the keen-eyed individuals, you can also see that we have pop quizzes. So let's say we do want to do multiple choice pop quizzes. It will generate these, and I can then take this and in real time put them on the panel. So let's say, what does E equals mc squared express? So I can then ask my students to answer this question. Once they've answered the question, I can allow for the explanation to come up, and you can also insert these directly into the Note program if that's something that you want to add to the content generation. So within a couple of minutes, with just using two parts of the AI, we have gotten quite a lot of information on the panel. However, I would like to delve a little bit deeper into some of the other options. So let's go with AI once again. So we've touched onto topics, we've touched onto AI search, which is the circle and go I just did. We can also take mind maps. This will be similar to the topics, however, this will expand the central theme slightly. So by then touching onto the topics at the top, as well as giving me some extra discussion pieces for later use. So as you can see there, it went from scientific foundations to origins, from practical implications to medical imagining technologies, and then right at the bottom, the philosophical impact. You'll see we have redefinition of matter and energy and so forth. So as you can see, this will allow you to get a whole bunch of content on the panel very quickly. So I'm just going to add another page quickly, and then let's write science. As it is something that we were dealing with, so if I write the word science on the panel, once again it will turn into block letters. However, for now I can use the translate. If I want to translate that directly into Afrikaans in real time, I can do that. So very quick, very easily, you can translate words, sentences, making teaching in different languages quite a lot more simple. You also have the ability then to AI paint, so like chat, you can ask it to paint anything. So within, let's do the same example. So let's write E equals mc squared again, and then from there we can select this, we can click on the AI, we can ask it to paint, and let's make it 3D, and let's generate. So from here, obviously this is its interpretation of what I've written on the panel. It can do words, it can do pictures, it can do sentences, and as you can see, it thought that a whiteboard with a whole bunch of numbers would be the correct interpretation of E equals mc squared. So just once again, very quick, very easy to get all these things on the panel. And then lastly, just I want to touch onto the AI that sits on the OS. So what I have touched on today was circle and go, ask AI. I haven't touched onto live subtitling or the calculator or video pilot. So quickly, while I'm going to explain the calculator, I will activate the live subtitling. So currently I am translating to Afrikaans. So I'm just going to turn it off. So then this would be just a live subtitle of what I say. However, I can translate this into real time into Afrikaans. So then everything I said will be translated into Afrikaans. So the dark gray is English and the white is Afrikaans. So with that running in the background, I just wanted to touch on to the last thing, which is the Calculator Pro. So this is something I haven't touched onto either. I did touch onto GeoGebra's calculator options. I'm just going to close the live subtitling as it is quite distracting. So I did touch onto GeoGebra's calculator options. However, we do have a scientific calculator or an AI calculator that can be turned into a scientific calculator if that is something you need. However, the AI does work the sums out accordingly for you. So if we have to go with the square root of 144 and I say equals, it should come up with 12, and as you can see, it did do that quite fast. And you can also ask him its other random sums. So let's go with 1129 minus 2003. And then if I draw a line, it will make or give me the answer accordingly. So there is different ways of using this, different formats of calculating. You're not just limited to the standard formula of the calculators. All right, so with all that being said, that was just a brief introduction on the new panel. I would like to invite you all to our next webinar, which would be the XTR launch. This will be happening on the 25th of March, 2026. And I will be implementing or putting the link to the registration as well as the time for this webinar down in the link below. Please follow the link, please register, and make sure that you don't miss our next exciting launch webinar. But other than that, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching. Please follow, like, and share. My name is Jaku from tutortouch.